started, have you?
Just that little bit of a adrenaline rush, you know. I was listening to the radio driving in, and of course, there were these speeches with Bob Dole's passing and so forth. But Mitch McConnell said that, I guess Dole was Senate Majority Leader because of the election.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, Dole said, if we had known we were going to take control of the Senate, we'd have run better candidates. we'd have run better candidates.
He was a great statesman.
He did have a good sense of humor, didn't he? These guys are the heroes. I mean, I guess he's the last World War II. Well, maybe he's not, but I bet he is.
Close to it, yeah.
Have to be close to it. Have to be close to it. All right. It is 5:00 and we are ready for our agenda meeting. Josh, take us through it.
All right. Call to order. Welcome, prayer, pledge of allegiance, and announcements. No proclamations, awards, or recognition for this meeting. Citizen comments. No communications from staff, councils, or commissions and agencies. And then we'll go into consent agenda. Adoption of minutes will be the November 8th, 2021 regular session meeting and the November 4th, 2021 agenda meeting. 5B is a resolution to authorize signers of checks. So the checks that we do on a weekly basis, we need to get, actually I haven't done this and we probably should have already done this, but we're getting this corrected now. But this just authorizes myself and Tammy and the mayor and actually Savannah to be on that for the signer of, it's not payroll checks, it's accounts payable checks. So the bills we send out on a weekly basis.
Been signing them, it just hadn't had authorization.
That's
to do
right.
so.
I think I had authorization.
I didn't have it. I signed a few there for a while.
5C, approval of the North Carolina State Archives 2021 records retention and disposition schedule. I'm going to let Savannah talk a little bit about this on Monday night. And there's been a few changes, right? Not a whole lot of changes, but a few changes just on what we keep up with, from personnel records to permits to, kind of the whole gamut of the records we're supposed to keep and how long we keep them. 5D is a resolution and budget amendment for fines and forfeitures, special revenue fund. We're probably going to see some more of this as we get into the next budget year. We have our lovely Governmental Accounting Standards Board that does lots of things that cause us extra work, but that's okay. This is going to put us in line with a new GASB statement, GASB 84. And what this is for our fines and forfeitures go into a special revenue fund, and we're supposed to pay those to the school system. 5E, a budget amendment for golf carts. We've already accepted those. We're just making our books right. With the sale of those golf carts, we did get the $183,000 when we traded those in, so we just want to account for that. 5F, a budget amendment for insurance proceeds. There's a couple of different amounts in there. One is for the building that collapsed a few months ago. We had that storm down at Public Works. That's been reimbursed fully. There's another one in there, I think, for some damage to one of the smaller garbage trucks. So we're just accounting for those insurance proceeds in our budget. 5G is a call for public hearing to add text to our land use code for mobile food vendors and mobile food vendor courts. This is something that's been talked about at planning board at length for a few months. So now we're going to call for public hearing and get that on the books. But really what we're trying to do is, we don't have anything now in our code that addresses food trucks or anything like this. So we just want to get something on the books where folks will know what they need to do when they come in. This isn't going to prohibit them at all. It's just going to make it more standard and have them be able to follow certain rules that we've got in place. 5H, I, and J are all resolutions of support to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, French Broad River MPO. And these, Tristan and Erica mentioned the list briefly in our special call meeting last week. One of these is for the Blue Ridge Road Modernization Project. The second one, I, is for Fauna Forest State Trail Connection here in town. And then J is for traffic and circulation study. All three of these are going to be studies. So it's not construction. They're just studies to undertake. The last one, the traffic and circulation study, that is, since we're now bringing the Greenway kind of through town versus the off versus the river, we think we're going to have some change in conditions. There's also a project down at the end of Richardson that potentially has some change where we may need to do something different with some traffic in that area, whether that be one way or whatever may come out of that study. But that's the reason for that.
The Greenway related.
That's correct.
So on Blue Ridge Road Modernization, did we do some sort of study about that a few years back?
We did not. We did the small area plan over there.
Yeah, maybe that's what.
Blue Ridge Road small area plan.
We talked about the road modernization.
We've talked about it, and I think this has been something that we tried to get funded on the STIP, but did not get it funded.
That's what I'm thinking about.
But we're hopeful with a study,
Might
we'll have that background and make
That's
us
what
score
I'm
better.
thinking about. We tried to get it. We tried to get it on the STIP, and it didn't score.
That's
well
right.
enough. Maybe we tried twice.
I think we may have.
Yeah.
So for those that, and I can talk more about it Monday, but this is the section of Blue Ridge Road that is not included in that interchange.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the section that will run kind of up to almost Clements Automotive off Blue Ridge Road, and then the other end where the roundabout is. This study will focus on the section in the middle of that. And 5K will be a budget amendment for community outreach. This is for the police department, for them to have, actually, I think it's about $10,000 that we've got in for community outreach, where we do, the Christmas presents, things of that nature. 6 will be our second option for citizen comments, no unfinished business. Item 8A is board appointments. We have 2 boards that have vacancies, at least on this agenda, the Greenways Commission and the ABC Board. We do have a need for Board of Adjustment members right now currently, and we are advertising in the process of getting that out there to folks so we can get some interest. 8B is a contract for EB 5547D, Section A. This is our Greenway that will be coming, of course, through town and then going down Vance Terry Estates. What this contract is for, we're still going to have 2 projects with DOT, but this contract is to have 1 contract with our engineering firm. So it's not that confusing. So it's all going to be together with them as far as the cost. 8.
Would you say that again?
Sure. So we're still going to have the Section A and B as outlined in the STIP with the MPO, but this contract specifically for MBI is for the whole thing for the engineering.
I thought that's what you said. I just wanted to.
Sure. 8C, Greenway, update on Greenways Commission ordinance. So in your packet, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I'm sure you will over the weekend, and we can go through this probably and need to in detail Monday. But this, you're going to have 2 versions of this in your packet. There's a staff version and there's a Greenway Commission version. They are a little bit different. There's some things that staff has concerns about in their version of the ordinance. So I want to bring those to your attention on Monday night so we can talk about that.
Josh, could we ask someone from the commission to be available
Absolutely.
to answer questions?
And I'm sure they'll probably be here anyway, but we'll make sure they're here.
Okay, thank you.
8D, post-construction residential stormwater inspection text amendment. What we're doing with this, currently we have in place where folks are needing to get their inspections done on a yearly basis. What this amendment is going to do is allow the town to do that on a yearly basis for them, and then they are going to be required to do it every 3 years. So we will supply that service in-house up to the 3rd year, and then they have to do it the 3rd year, so on and so forth. But that way they're not having to pay, because what we're finding is some of the engineers that do this type of work are charging some pretty hefty amounts to folks, and we don't want to put that burden on them to do every single year versus just doing it 3 years instead of every year.
Is that for a development? Or
It would be for any development that is required to put in stormwater control measures. They have to do, operation and maintenance, and they have to do inspections on a yearly basis.
Right, thank you.
So would we be charging the?
I will let Jessica answer that on Monday.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I may be wrong, but we'll get you to answer that on Monday.
Okay.
8E is an adoption of our schedule for our town council regular meetings and workshop meetings for the upcoming year. I think that needs to be 2022.
I noticed on one of the lines, the dates were swapped for the agenda meeting and the regular meeting.
Thank you. And then we'll roll into our public hearings. We have 2. We have the first one, which is going to be adding some definitions to our land use code that will specifically define murals, premise signs, temporary signs, and actually amend the definition of signs. 9B is also the public hearing, and this is where we're going to be repealing and replacing our sign ordinance with a new ordinance. And this is all in order to be in compliance with a court case from a few years ago known as Reed versus Gilbert, where we need to be regulating sign based on location and not content. So we can't base our regulations on what the sign says, just on location, size, things of that nature. And then we'll have communication from staff. I do have one thing I would like your input on. If you recall, in last year's budget or this year's budget, we did budget $80,000 to do solar panels at the Carver Center. I spoke with the county this week. They did get the bids back in. They did receive the bids. Ours is more expensive than the $80,000. So I wanted to get advice from council and see how y'all wanted to address it. We can go do a budget amendment for the remaining. It's going to be $100,336. So we have $80,000 budgeted. Or they can do a scaled down version where it will meet our current budget that we have, which is $80,000. But the bids, the low bidder came in higher on ours than some of the other projects. And the reasons for that are, according to them, the age of the building, they have some concerns about the electrical and what that's gonna take to bring that up to the code it needs to be brought up to for those panels. So if y'all wanna add this to the agenda, we can, or if it's gonna be a budget amendment, obviously it's gonna be on the agenda, but if there's not interest in that, then I can just have them move forward and go with our $80,000 and see what we can get.
Well, why don't we just, put this under new business? That way it's documented, it's in the public record, and we can discuss it. It can be tabled if the council's not quite ready to, think it through, needs a little more detail or something, but
Okay,
how about that? Does that sound good to everybody?
Sounds good.
I'll put that under 8F, F as in Frank. And then we have a closed session for personnel matters, 143-318.11-6, excuse me. And that's it for the agenda.
Right, any questions for Josh? Hearing none, then how about a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Looks like we got enough so moves to carry the whole thing. Meeting adjourned. Josh, thanks, everybody. Good evening.
You too.
Thank you. I believe.
What's that? Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
$2,100.
Close.
What it is.